we get to the dashboard, basically this is just sort of the landing page for logins, and I won't belabor it. What I'd like to do is jump right into requesting a set of compounds to be synthesized from a CRO. So we'll just click Submit New Request under the Work Orders menu. And what you get here is a form that is completely configurable. So which fields are on the form and what their data types are, their status, whether they're required or optional, valid values, things like that are all configurable. We're just showing you something that we think is particularly relevant. So we can make a couple of data entries here just into the required fields. And you'll see that I'm being asked to make an attachment. Like generally, this is a literature reference or an overview of the synthetic pathway or whatever. So we can just drag and drop that in. And then down below, we've got a table where the compounds will go in that constitute this request. So you can enter data into this table manually. You can draw with Marvin.js or ChemDraw. I prefer using an SD file because you can just drag the SD file in. And if you have fields in the SD file that correspond with the column headers in the table, then the whole table will automatically populate for you from the data in the SD file. You can also see here that I've pulled in a Reg ID field. So what's happened in the background is that these compounds have been searched in the registration system to see if they've previously been registered or not. Generally, the chemist will obviously have a pretty good idea of whether they're expecting compounds to be registered or not. If you want to check one out, you just click on it and it will pop open in the registration system and you can have a look. So that is, there are many different ways of doing that, but this I think is the most straightforward, where you can just get your hands on the registration number for the compound if there is one. You can manage this table in a number of ways, including reprioritizing rows. This is intended to be a top-down execution list for the chemist who's doing the synthesis, or multiple chemists. You can get the data in and out of the table quite easily. I've shown getting the data in. You can actually download an SD file or a CSV file if you like as well. We'll go ahead and submit the request. Obviously, all the form validation is happening, so required fields, allowed values, things like that. And then the request will be submitted into the queue, and I'll be brought back to my dashboard. So we'll go over to my dashboard. This is a table of all of the requests that I've submitted into the system that have not been processed. So for example, if I want to select by a specific project, I can just filter and get down to that project pretty easily. Filters are easily removed as well, so we can open the table back up. I'll just sort by date created so I can get the one that we just submitted right at the top. We'll open this up. So there's a couple of things that you can do once a request has been created, and I think one of the more relevant ones is actually repeating the request. So generally speaking, this will allow you to, repeat a request so that you can get most of those compounds resynthesized. You can take some out, change the purity, do whatever, but it sort of simplifies the data entry. It also creates a link back to the request from which you made the copy so that you can see the chain of events a little bit more easily. So one of the things that we had this configuration set up to do is to create a new notebook in the system every single time a request is created. That's not something that has to happen, but generally it's nice to have all of the ELN pages that represent the compounds that were synthesized for a specific request inside of a given notebook. So I can click to open the notebook. And this is what either the internal or external chemist actually sees. They go to the notebook page, there's nothing in there. They can open up the request and take a look at the compounds that they're supposed to be synthesizing in a top-down order. So it's quite easy to copy these compounds out and synthesize one. I'll upload a known reaction so that I save you the pain of watching me draw a reaction in ChemDraw. And I'll do that by creating a new chemistry experiment. So this will create a new chemistry experiment in this notebook. You can see the chemistry experiment template. I'll upload a reaction. As I mentioned earlier, you can draw using Marvin.js or using ChemDraw. And of course, you can also upload reaction file, RxN file, SKC file, obviously CDX or CDXML, anything like that will work fine. So a stoichiometry grid is generated, a schematic of the reaction is generated, and we can start entering our data. So we'll enter some amounts for reagents. We can enter an amount that we actually got synthesized. And then, let's see, now we can go down. You can see my theoretical mass was 1.67. I synthesized 1.65, so calculations are done for you. In terms of write-ups, you can use standard blurbs to build your write-ups. So these are configurable by people who have permission inside of the company.